Hey, you're connected?
Hi.
Hi, how's it going?
Hello.
Hi.
Excellent. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well. Are you guys in New York or Los Angeles right now?
Right now we're in Los Angeles.
Oh, so the weather's great then.
Indeed.
Good,
Always.
good. So let's start. How did you guys come up with the story for American Milkshake?
I think it came from growing up in a really diverse neighborhood in the Maryland, D.C. area, you know? And sort of having like a group of friends that was across all these lines of race and class and, of course, sex, and then just watching how that sort of affected relationships growing up. And some of that was some of the inspiration. I think the real sort of moment that I just couldn't let go of was like this image of this white kid with this pregnant girl, like just his hand on her belly. Just kind of like, and then what was that about, and why do I have this image? And then working outward from there, then you kind of start to explore it. But that was definitely one of the first core images before there was any story.
Now, was it based off of both of your life experiences?
Yeah, I though not directly story points, but I think growing up in Honolulu, Hawaii, for me, I definitely race was a huge topic of debate. Though we weren't discussing African American culture as much, we were more discussing Native Hawaiian and Asian culture. But there was definitely a sense of finding your place and who are you in relation to race and class and sex, of course, as well.
Yeah,
and I think there was a fair amount of just bonding over this type of experiences in the sort of writing process.
And of
that
course,
made it a shared
historic. Yeah, and of course, historic events and how they affected our kind of worldviews. I mean, we both have, I think a lot of people of our generation have really clear memory of like where they were or what was going on when they heard about the O.J. Simpson verdict and certain other historic events that kind of shaped our kind of perception. It was interesting, while we were in pre-production, it was the anniversary of the Rodney King, and we got to see an excellent production of Twilight Los Angeles. It's at the Duke Ellington School of the Arts, and it was just so timely. And then, of course, with Trayvon Martin, it was just there are so many memories flooding back of these really like crazy injustices that we were exposed to so early in our lives that really influenced our kind of perspective.
Now, this movie is considered as a 90s period piece, which it kind of makes me feel old that the 90s is now considered as a period piece.
Yeah.
But why did you guys choose, out of all the different periods, why the 90s?
Well, I think that's kind of a chicken and the egg scenario. And on some degree, it's when we grew up. It's what we were inspired by. It's other filmmakers we admired did similar things. Diner or Dazed and Confused, like making the movie about their youth and the basic coming of age story of the teenage years. But on another level, I mean, if you're gonna explore race, I mean, what better time period to set it than during the O.J. trial? When
the Million Man March.
The Million Man March. Jordan's father was murdered. Sort of this idea of fame and race and class and how these things play into your cards you're dealt. Like, to me, our school went wild when O.J. got off. I don't think it was because everyone was a huge O.J. Simpson fan. I think it was because, okay, this was the first instance of fame and money trumping race in the U.S. justice system. I mean, I high school, you're learning about all the time when the system has really just been in favor of white people. I mean, basically. So it was kind of a huge moment. So it made perfect sense to set the story in that time period.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how did, since you both wrote the story and you both directed the movie, how do you guys try to collaborate and work together? Was that a difficult process?
No, not at all. It was very organic. Mariko really loved the script and had a lot of great ideas on it, and immediately I was like, well, we should do that because they made perfect sense, and I really liked her ideas, and it just evolved from there. It was supernatural.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is considered as a dark comedy. Where do you guys find like some certain jokes, like especially when it's concerned race, just too offensive? And then have you guys ever like basically pulled back on some of the stuff for American Milkshake?
Oh yeah, we definitely pulled back a lot of times. I mean, finding the line of what you want to say is not easy, so we struggled with that like any artist struggles with their work, and and at times we were like, we need to go further. At times we were like, that's not really what we want to say. It looks funny, but we don't like it, I think we wanted to open up a lot of issues, but we didn't want to force feed people an idea and a message,
Uh-huh.
There's like a classic argument of like Tarantino and Oliver Stone arguing about, Oliver Stone's take on Natural Born Killers, because Tarantino's thing was never to force feed the audience a message. It was more to like tell a story and let people, themes naturally will come out of it. So we I think stand on that side of the argument as well, where we were like, we don't want to say what people should believe. We want to present the issues at hand in a way that's easy for people to then go talk about them,
Mm-hmm.
and find their own opinions on them.
Yeah, hopefully people are, I mean, when we made the movie, I think we didn't realize that there were, I guess there is some sort of zeitgeist, because I noticed that Sundance and in theaters and on people's lips lately, race is being discussed again, and I think it's both, for both of us, something that we thought was important, but it can be taboo, but it's something that should be acknowledged.
Yeah, it's occasionally that somebody accidentally crossed the line and that people are dealing with it, then it just all gets erased from history,
Yeah, or swept up.
So it's like this Miley Cyrus, VMA's performance was certainly controversial, that's for people to decide if they liked it or not, or if it's exploitive, or if it's just borrowing and interesting and a homage. It's kind of, people are going to have their own opinion, but at least it's kind of out there.
It's sparking debate, which is always interesting.
And sometimes people do go too far, and that's too bad. Bad decisions do get made, but, I think we're willing to toil with the line because we think it's worth it,
Uh-huh. So why did you guys go with the comedy route rather than like a dramatic route for this storyline?
Well, so that the dramatic route would be so heavy that are already heavy that it's gonna diminish the audience. The last thing we wanted to do was kind of have that preach to the choir. Not that we're preaching, but it's kind of, we wanted the audience to be as wide as possible, because that's the idea of talking about these issues, opening it up for people that normally wouldn't want to broach it. So doing the dramatic route was going to hinder who was going to go see the movie. So that's where we thought using the comedic tool is going to be a great way to let people in,
And comedy is often a critique. I think some of the best comedy critiques and critiques universal understanding, and that's why it means so much. That's why it's funny, because it's true oftentimes.
Okay.
I agree. I think, Richard Pryor, Woody Allen, all these guys are always critiquing society in a major way, and yes, I agree with that. I think the comedy thing is just a great way to do a peak.
Okay, well, let's talk about a little bit about your casting. I actually spoke with Tyler Ross, and he said he's somewhat based off the character off of you, David. What did you think about that?
That's funny. I definitely went through that, like a lot of people. And I think it's it was an interesting experience. I mean, being white, wanting to be black is one aspect of it. Just wanting to be something that you're not is a more universal version of that story. So the white wanting to be black is kind of this subgenre that has been done. I mean, we saw it in White Boys and Whackness and Malibu's Most Wanted.
Yeah.
But to me, the experience that was truly universal wasn't grabbed in those movies in the way that we wanted to do it, because this is Jolie's desire exists almost entirely in his head. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
He doesn't wield a gun because he thinks he's thugged out. He doesn't, it's more a fantasy, which is when those albums were going triple platinum and whatnot, The Chronic and Snoop and Tupac and Biggie, I don't think most people were out there like gangbanging, you know what I mean? But they may have been in their kitchen, in their head, gangbanging. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So this is kind of like the story of that kid that a lot of us were, whereas some of the attempts to do this subgenre have been more about someone who went a lot further than we did in real life,
So you're telling me, David, that your high school experience, you tried to be black?
I think in my high school, definitely like the top of the hierarchy may have been including being black, being from the projects. Like, those kids were very cool at the time just because of the nature of it. I don't know, because of what was going on in the pop culture. And it was a mostly black school, so there was that.
Oh, so there's always that high school pressure. I understand. Now, yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say there's a paradigm like that in any school. I mean, there's always the coolest kids in the school. I think I was really fortunate in that we had a school that was large enough that it wasn't so much of a pressure,
Mm-hmm. Well, let's talk about the cast. How did you guys approach and why you recruited like Tyler Ross, Eureka Epps, or even Georgia Ford, which I think is one of her first major feature films.
Yeah. Well, Georgia is a friend of mine, and I'd known that she was interested in acting, and we weren't sure if she'd be right for the role, but we sent her to our casting director, and she recorded. She taped an audition, and we watched it, and we were impressed, really impressed. And I don't think either of us. I mean, the role, the character was one that we worked really hard on pumping up from the first draft that David had written, and then when we started working together, when we rewrote it, it was a character that I felt I really wanted a great performance out of that character, and so when we saw, I think we both did, of course, and then when we saw her audition, she really brought some life to some of these, and she had some subtleties, and working with her was just incredible. I guess it runs in her blood because she was just like such a pro on set. She nailed every take. She was wonderful. And then we were so lucky to work with Sharika. I don't think either of us realized that we would even have an option to work with somebody who is, kind of that kind of veteran. We were both fans of her work in Half Nelson, and she really brought like some gravitas and she's just such a thoughtful human that having her play Henrietta, it was like, more than we could have ever asked for. She really was, so beautiful in that role. And then Tyler was just a lucky break almost, because he was our last person we cast, and it was, of course, one of the the biggest role in the film, and we had seen such a number of people with different tastes, a lot of different guys, and then when we got this private YouTube link, we knew immediately that this kid had what it takes, and we asked to do it. He lived in LA and we were in New York, and we're small productions, so we couldn't fly him in for an audition or anything, but we were able to do a Skype session with him, and that session really kind of cemented it in our brain that we really wanted this guy.
This will be the final question.
Oh, okay. Now, since this was your first feature directorial role, how was your guys' overall experience, and are you guys going to have any more future projects together?
It was just really, I feel very grateful for the experience, basically. It was just a real honor and a privilege, and a real challenge and a real learning experience. It really was. It sounds like such a stock answer. I've learned so much about so many angles of everything in life, so it was just, that whole experience was wonderful, and I think we're definitely going to proceed with, we're working on some new original material now. We definitely plan to work together.
Yeah.
But the new subject won't be about race. It will be probably something different this time around, right?
Well, I think that we're both interested in race and class in general. So it's hard to avoid addressing it, and we're not avoiding it. That's for sure. Whether it'll be the central focus of the next piece is hard to say. We're writing a couple different things right now, but yeah, it's definitely a subject that continues to fascinate me, and I think Dave as well.
Yeah, you can't avoid who you are. You know what I mean? So these things are if they come out in one piece, I find they come out in another to some degree. You can change genre. It's like you can try your hand at different genres, but your handwriting's still going to look, So to some degree, yeah, I feel like for me, it's kind of something. I grew up in Mississippi on the quote unquote black side of the tracks, and my parents are civil rights lawyers, and I don't know, it's just something that I'm aware of, and so I think it's always going to come out to some degree. It might not be the focus.
Well, that's awesome. Well, I appreciate your time. American Milkshake was a hilarious movie to me, and hopefully we'll get to speak again sometime soon on your next project.
That'd be great.
Thanks so much.
Hey, thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks for your time.
Take care.
You too. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
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 Bye-bye.